do with the ancient Egyptians or anything to do with this structure?
None whatsoever.
The reason I want to stop and emphasize this particular pharaoh of the 18th dynasty was he was the one that carried the extent of the Egyptian empire when it became an empire all the way up to the Tigris River, to the Euphrates River, and up into what would be Persia and so forth. And even parts of Europe, this pharaoh conquered and was ruler over what was then the known world. He's one of the probably the most powerful pharaohs in Egyptian history, and again, from his facial features, he is black. Now, let me point out, the faces...
Now, you were talking about black people, Africans.
Yes.
Dominating.
Yes.
Much of the world.
That's right.
This is contrary to what we have been taught.
That's why I'm talking about it.
Right. That we've always been slaves, and that our roots start with roots.
Right, and that's clearly incorrect.
My fondest memory of Listervelt is when I first met him, and he called me and asked me to be on his show. And when we started talking, he had a very engaging, loud laugh that pulled you in and was disarming at the same time. I later found out it was a way of getting you to loosen up and talk about things that were deepest inside you.
Listervelt was a man that was strong, courageous, and proud. He was a genius. He could do anything he set his mind to do. And I learned that in him at on the very onset of the relationship. So much so that I became his second mother.
He made me feel like there's a possibility, or there might be a little hope for us as a people.
To have the opportunity to exchange ideas and to share. And really, one of the most important things, I truly loved him. And I know that he truly loved me. And that love was without qualification. So that was something that I will always treasure.
Good evening. We are very glad to have you with us for this very special program. This program is special because with this evening's guest, we reach a plateau in our quest to find out who we have been and who we are. Our guest is one of the leading anthropologists and Egyptologists in the world, Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop.
Aujourd'hui, la science sait de façon sûre que l'humanité a pris naissance en Afrique, sous la latitude du Kenya, dans cette région qui est à cheval sur le Kenya, l'Éthiopie et la Tanzanie.
We are able to say scientifically today, to say with certainty that mankind was born in Africa, on the latitude more or less of Kenya, and that area which comprises Kenya, Ethiopia, and Tanzania.
Et qui va même jusqu'en Afrique du Sud, suivant un axe nord-sud.
And going on a north-south axis all the way south to South Africa.
Or, une humanité qui est née sous une telle latitude au niveau de l'équateur n'aurait pas pu survivre si elle n'était pas pigmentée noire dès son apparition.
So it's clear that any humanity that had its birth in that region could not have survived in an equatorial region without pigmentation.
La nature ne crée rien au hasard et elle a protégé l'humanité qui est née sous l'équateur en Afrique par un écran de mélanine. C'est ce qui fait que les premiers hommes étaient nécessairement noirs tant qu'ils n'étaient pas encore sortis de l'Afrique.
Nature doesn't do anything by chance, and it's for that reason that humanity, mankind that was born in a sub-equatorial region was given melanin to protect its skin. And it's for that reason that it is clear, it is certain that first man had to be a black man.
It is wonderful to have such a giant of an African to be so sensitive, to be so caring, so loving, so sharing. And when you know of his work with his family and the building of his home, I described him in my presentation here as the Akhenaten of our age. He was a brother who had a consciousness of a new beginning, who wanted to create a new concept of the oneness of God, who wanted to create a new city of God, just as he built a new home for himself and set a pattern for the transmission of our truth. And he didn't base it in Atlanta, the metropolis of the South, or in Chicago, the metropolis of the Midwest, or New York, the metropolis of the nation. He came south, down to the homeland. He returned back to where our people have their deepest roots. And it was from this base that he made his enormous contribution. So we will be forever indebted for having passed with him in this phase of African consciousness, and he'll never be forgotten.
I considered it an honor to hear the phone ring and pick it up and hear him start to recite his poetry without even saying hello. I'm not even African man. He just started reciting it, and it was good. It was good. I think that the one thing that I want to happen more than almost anything else is for the world to know who he was. He was more than just a giant.
I thought I was a revolutionary in my militancy and my activism, but here was this man who took his mind and did the same things that we were doing in the streets, with taking over buildings and leading marches and holding demonstrations, and he was making poetry, and he was reaching out and grabbing the best of our minds and putting it on television, so that people who would never have seen a Dr. Ben, Asa Hilliard, Francis Welsing, Dr. Jeffries, Camille Yarbrough, Marimba Ani, he was presenting us to these people. And not just presenting us, but he understood what he wanted us to give to our people. And the way he approaches questioning, his attitude about what you said, the way he would lead you into giving the information he wanted the people to have, and his genuine interest and understanding. He didn't just interview you and then went on about his business, which was someplace else, but he was about the same bank of knowledge that we were about, the same school of thought in seeking out the African truth. And so I learned to appreciate the fact that he knew how to love. Love wasn't a mystery to Listervelt. He was honest. Honesty wasn't a mystery. It wasn't something he had to try hard to be.
When one is engaged in a psychological war with a racist, what is the best way to subdue him or her?
That's very difficult, and it's very difficult because I believe that there are different kinds of racists, you know. I believe that there are racists out of ignorance, I believe that there are racists out of insecurity, and I believe that there are racists out of mental illness, okay? Now, you have to deal with those types of racists in different ways. Now, there are racists who are racist simply because they have misinformation. They simply don't know any better. They don't know that they have been taught ignorance. They don't know that they've been taught that Europeans have done everything, that white people are the best of everything. They don't understand that. They simply don't have contrary information. Now, that kind of racist can be helped by giving them information, by simply saying, here are the facts. Here is this indication of black intelligence, black civilization, black power, all these things. You can correct that kind of racist, and they will change. They would change their attitudes. They would change their conduct.
Now, there's another, an associate psychologist, a friend of yours, maybe a colleague. That's the word I'm looking for. He has stated that the more white people become aware of your genius, black genius, the more afraid of you they will become.
Okay.
For example, you look at the situation now in Japan, where people used to laugh at the Japanese. Now that they've become too competent, they want to deal with them. How do you see that in light of your statement you just made, that the uninformed racist can be helped by giving him or her information.
Okay,
Is it not possible that when you give him that information on the black genius, that he or she will not recoil?
Yeah. Well, I was trying to get to the other topics. Okay. You're quite. The insecure racists will be devastated by that information, and that's why the strategies have got to be different. And a part of what we've got to understand is the difference in those races. You know, the fact is that when you sit up and argue with some white people, it will make a difference. Some of them, very few of them, but some of them it will make a difference. That is, give them information to correct them. But you're quite right. The vast majority of white people are racist because of their own insecurity. They don't trust their own capability, despite the fact that the whole culture tells them how powerful they are. So when you begin to give those people ideas and indications of black genius, it will frighten them, and they'll become even more strident, even more vehement, even more determined in their determination to be racist. That's a large number of them. Then there's another group of racists who are sick, who are so sick that it doesn't matter what you tell them, what they see, what they understand, they're going to maintain beyond a shadow of a doubt of the total inferiority of everybody black and the total superiority of everybody white.
It's almost like he flew under the radar because no one knew that this incredibly broad impact had already been made. It's kind of like a poem that I like to cite by the British historian and literary giant Gerald Massey, and it goes something like this. It says, "Truth is all-powerful with its silent power, and working secretly, it's only whispered and never heard aloud, working secretly except in some excommunicated book. Truth is like lightning, with its errand done before you hear the thunder." And I think that's really what's happening. I think Listervelt was lightning, and we still have to hear the thunder. That report is going to be coming for a long time.
On a personal note, Listervelt Middleton and I were friends and colleagues for more than 20 years. And even though his physical presence is no longer with us, the legacy of his work and his spirit will remain indelibly etched in our hearts and in our minds.
If you've seen most of this series, I'm sure you understand how the creation of two myths, two lies, produced much of the problems we face concerning black-white relations. For in an effort to create the myth of white superiority, Europeans, including European Americans, had to create the myth of black or African inferiority. Europeans saw that only by claiming for themselves that which had been created by Africans could they spread the seeds of black inferiority around the globe. And that they did with such calculated precision that they were able to get the African to reject his own skin, reject his own God. The negative indoctrination of black people by some white Americans reminds one of how elephants are trained. It is said that the elephant trainer starts off training the elephant by putting a large chain around the elephant's neck and pulling on the chain to make the elephant respond to different commands. The elephant trainer uses smaller and smaller chains to get the same responses he had obtained with the more cumbersome chain until finally he is able to use not a chain, but a string. The cumbersome and unwieldy chains of slavery around the world were thrown away after black people had been trained how to respond to alien commands. Many of us are walking around thinking that we have chains on our feet and minds, not knowing that a mere string is keeping us in check. This string is the myth of white superiority and invincibility. What happens when the elephant discovers that a mere string has been stretching between it and independent power? We should all look around ourselves and dare to step beyond the boundaries that have been set for us and our children. Thank you, and good evening.